So you know you want to invest in real estate in Somerville, Massachusetts, but where do you begin? What parts of Somerville do you focus on? What parts do you avoid? Today's video, I'm going to share high level what to focus on when investing in real estate in Somerville. What towns, the mindset, some things that you might have not even considered. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. If you guys don't know me, my name is Jankowitz. I'm a real estate agent based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I cover Cambridge, Somerville, and Medford, Massachusetts, and I take an investment-centric approach to real estate. I've closed over 400 transactions in the last 5 years. If you guys have questions, there's a calendar link in the description below. And of course, feel free to like and comment as well. Let's get into the video. Now, just like my Cambridge real estate investing video that I recently released, now when thinking of investing in real estate in Somerville, one of the first things you need to do is you need to put yourself in the minds of your prospective renters. And renters generally make decisions about where they want to live based on commute. And so with that in mind, I highly recommend you use your T-stops throughout Somerville to make decisions about where you want to invest. And I'm going to go over the different areas and sort of the pluses and minuses of these various areas in a second, but just understand that you really should be using the T-stops as a guidepost about where you generally want to be. Now, there's actually 3 different colored lines, T-stops. So if you're a new area, there's basically a subway lines. There's red, there's green, and there's orange that all are throughout Somerville that all feed into downtown Boston, okay? On the red line, you have Davis and Porter Square. The green line was a recent project that was completed in the last few years, and we have a bunch of new green line T extension stops, which has vastly changed which areas are desirable here in Somerville, Massachusetts. Those are going to be Ball Square, Magoon Square, Gilman Square, East Somerville, and Union Square. And then you have the orange line, which has Assembly Row, as well as Sullivan Square, which is technically in Charlestown, but it's basically right there on the line. So when I think about investing in real estate in Somerville, I kind of put it in a few different buckets. The first bucket is relatively low risk, relatively low-ish reward. And what I mean by that is it's an area where you're pretty much guaranteed to get quality tenants, to get units rented quickly, to see increases in rent year over year, and property increases year over year. What you're going to find for these areas, similar to, a Central Square, Harvard Square, Cambridgeport, and Cambridge, you're going to pay a premium to get in, and the result is the cap rate is going to be lower. You're not going to get the spread between the rents you're getting and the value of the home that you buy is going to be greater, okay? So this is areas where you're going to see great cash flow, and you're really going to win in the appreciation game. So in order to be in these markets, generally you need a lot of upfront capital, easily 1.5 to 2 million, especially if you're a 5-minute walk or less to these T-stops. And so for these areas, I would put them in the Porter and Davis Square camps. These areas are extremely mature. They're extremely walkable. You can step outside and you can have access to multiple grocery stores, to pharmacies, to cafes, to cool restaurants, to bars, on and on and on, as well as T-stops that go to downtown Boston. It's fully developed. They're very mature. They've been in place for quite a while. You're not going to see some massive jump one year, but you are going to see steady gains. So again, to get into these markets, you pay a lot. The cap rates are lower, but they're safe bets. They're generally great for wealth preservation, or if you have a lot of capital, you can see good gains, but you're going to pay quite a bit to get into these markets. Next up is sort of what I would say sort of the in-betweenies. They're sort of medium upside and potentially medium risk. In my mind, not a huge risk because I just live and breathe this stuff every day. But for someone, other people might disagree with me on this point. But from my perspective, medium upside and relatively low risk, but maybe a little bit more than your Davis or Porters. In this category, I would put Ball Square, Magoon Square, I would put Gilman Square, I put Union Square and Assembly Row. And what you'll notice about all these areas are these are all areas that have either a new T-stop that came into being very recently in the last couple of years, or a lot of development recently completed or in the works. Pretty much all of these areas are gentrifying, they're changing. They're all pretty cool already though, so you're not getting some crazy discount to be clear on any of these properties. To get a 2-family in any of these areas, you're probably looking at somewhere between $1.2 and $1.6 million as of the shooting of this video, okay? Just to give you a sense. You're not gonna get some crazy deal here, but these are areas where you could see pretty decent growth year over the year for at least the next 10 years. There's a lot of lab space coming to these areas, particularly in Assembly Row, as well as Union Square. There's a lot of new developments coming, new luxury condos, more cool retail, and some changes happening that are making these areas cooler. These are some of my favorite places to invest. Some I like more than others, but all of these areas have a substantial upside and are pretty safe places to park your money and invest in real estate as long as you make a good buy. And there's a lot more that goes into it, of course, than just location, but this is a good place to start. Then finally, we have our third bucket. And this would be the bucket that I would say has sort of the highest risk profile, but potentially the highest long-term reward. And for these particular areas, I want to be clear, I don't think these areas are going to be popping anytime in the sort of short to medium term, say the next 3 to 6 years. But if you're willing to weather some storms and go for 10, 15, 20 years and really make a long-term bet, these could stand to have the biggest outsized returns over the long run. These are also going to be the areas where you're going to get the best value on a per unit basis when buying multifamilies. And that's going to be the East Somerville area, as well as Sullivan Square. I kind of group it together in one chunk. You know, these are areas where generally the tenant quality tends to be a bit lower. It tends to be areas where the DOM, the days on market, the time it takes for a unit to get rented takes a little bit longer. There might be more headaches with renters. Rental growth is a little bit more stagnating. Property values are growing at a slower pace. There may not be as much big development planned in these general surrounding areas, although for the surrounding neighborhoods, there definitely are. So there's not any quick wins here necessarily, but if you're on a tight budget, if you want to potentially have the chance for the most long-term upside, again, 10, 15 plus years, these can be good areas to invest in. So East Somerville and Sullivan Square area, you can get, a 4-unit property potentially for 1.6 million. In some of these other towns we're focusing on, probably not going to happen for less than potentially $2 million to $2.5 million. And that's it for today. I hope you guys feel like you have at least a high level understanding of the different parts of Somerville and how I think about them. There's a ton more nuance involved even within these areas. So if you're thinking of investing in real estate, you have questions, you want to run something by me, hit me up. I have a calendar link in the description below. You can also pop a comment, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.